where there was a deadline and I was running up to the deadline, and hang on, I'll have to go back in time. I was writing about the Suns. You can edit that out later. I was writing about the Suns. I was driving down to Currumbin Alley one morning early to have a surf before I came home and, did what I got to work. And Tim Cox, who is now no longer in radio, but he was at the time the breakfast presenter on 91.7. And he'd put the call out. It was after the Suns had played their very first game against Carlton. It was up in Brisbane because the Carrara Stadium hadn't been finished yet. And he said, who went to the first game? The Suns got absolutely flogged. Who went to the first game? What did you think? And, I rang up, while I was sort of squeezing myself into a wetsuit and going, yeah, g'day, mate, I was there and this happened and that happened. And because I knew it, I spoke fairly authoritatively about what was going on and why they weren't so competitive and who did what and who to keep an eye out for. Anyway, had a good chat and I thought, that was a bit of fun. Went and had a surf, great little surf, little peelers coming around the corner there, and then got back in the car and there was a message from Tim's producer, Lindsay, saying, that was great, do you want to come and do that every week? Be the Suns guy. You can talk about how the Suns went on the weekend. I was kind of following the games anyway and I thought, yeah, why not? So I started doing that.
Did you see what happened though? Your voice resonated. That's what I'm saying. They went, whoa, there was something about that. When you hear a great song, it's like, what? For some reason. Yeah, but okay, good story.
And now, knowing now, what I didn't know back then is that it's absolute gold mine time if you can find someone who can fill 15 minutes for you regularly on radio. You've got that gap filled, particularly in Brekkie radio, where it's an absolute scramble every day. But I was providing something that was helpful for them, and I was really enjoying it. So we did that for a while, and then the season came to an end. I started that other book, which I was a bit dubious about, and got writing that. And it was at the point of time where I was going, geez, I've got a lot of work to do to finish this by the deadline. And I literally just started up work again after the Christmas break, and I got a call from a fella called Trevor Jackson, who was the manager of the station at the time. Lovely bloke, love him to bits, still do. He's no longer there, but he's an absolute champion. And he was like, look, Tim Cox is leaving the breakfast shift. He's been sucked up the road to Brisbane to do the drive show up there. Would you be interested in doing it? And I'm like, come on, mate, you're taking the piss. I wouldn't have the first idea what to do. And he's like, yeah, well, there'd have to be some training. He's like, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, you sure this isn't a joke? And he's like, no, I just reckon, you've got a background that's kind of diverse and, you've got an interest and you've been practised by doing your sports stuff each week, and that went well.
How long did you do that sports stuff before then?
Full season, full footy season. So, that's 7 months.
So did you actually walk into the station now and then and shake the hands, and
was
it all audio?
I'd go in and every now and then it was by the phone. But most of the time I'd make the trip up there to Mermaid Beach.
So they knew you. I always say that you want a job, you go in there so they can smell you. Like, you know what I mean? Don't send an email, walk in and they'll go, I can work with this guy.
Yeah, it was pretty early in the morning. I don't know if they want to be smelling me. I'm not sure it was my odour that got me the gig.
He levels out all the smells in this studio.
He's neutraliser. So started talking footy. It was that was great. He got me and I'm like, I'll give this a crack. And it was literally, I just got thrown in a studio to play around with it. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It's the ABC. There's no training budgets for anything like that. And look, it got to this point where I was, mate.
What year was this, please?
This is 4 or 5 years ago, I suppose. Maybe 6 years ago. How long have they been at? 6 years ago.
Right.
Shit, where'd the time go? So I was sitting in there playing around with the buttons and trying to sort of do this crash course in getting myself up to speed. And, mate, it just got to the point where I had a contractual arrangement that I had to fulfil with the publisher to get the book done. I was trying to do this bloody learn to be a DJ thing, and it wasn't working. It was too hard. And so I had to say to Trevor...
Early mornings too, I bet, yeah.
Well, it's not so much that. I was just learning. I wasn't actually on air. I was literally just learning how to do it. And I said to Trev, mate, I just can't do it. Time's too short. I've got, really young kid home, first baby. There's a lot to organise in my life. I'm struggling to get everything done. I've got to finish this book. I just don't think the timing's right. And he's like, it's disappointing, but I understand. And from that moment, I walked out, went home, and that night I was tossing and turning, going, Jesus, I've tossed the bloody needle back in the haystack here, and I don't know that I'll ever find it again. I really enjoyed what I was trying to do, at least, even though I wasn't really getting far. So I gave Trev a call back the next day, gave him that analogy, mate, I feel like I've tossed the needle back in the haystack. And he's like, well, I've been thinking about it too. I'd like to keep you around. How about we do it in a softly, more a slower way, where you just come in. If someone's sick, or someone's on leave, and we need a replacement, you come in and be the super sub, and we can teach you that way. And so that's how I started. And then someone, Bern, lovely Bern, who does breakfast now, she got sick for a while. She was away for a good 3 weeks, so that gave me a good stretch at it. And then there was a fella called Scott Lamond who came over from Karratha, but there was a lag time before he started of 3 months, so that gave me a good long shot at it, in amongst doing the odd day here and there. And so I kind of figured it all out on my own speed and made all sorts of bloody mistakes. But by the time Scott left, he went up to Bundaberg, he's a country boy and wanted to be back in the country. The opening to do Drive emerged. That was 4 or 5 years ago, and I was lucky enough, particularly in this day and age, and the ABC being what it is at the moment, to get offered the job, and I've never taken it for granted since. It's a wonderful thing. It
is a wonderful thing, and no doubt you may have a different opinion, but with what I know about you now, this could be just the first job of the next big job.
I don't know. Well, I don't know. There's not
I've never heard a single person say they don't like listening to you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's kind of you to say, and them as well. But I honestly don't.
By the way, all those journalism students that were coming out of, someone heard your voice and went, we got to keep, there's something about this. There's something about this bloke. He's, we got all these kids thousands coming out of university wanting the job. Yeah, but no, you haven't lived the life yet.
They'd be looking at me going, that bastard, he's totally
be a solicitor.
He's totally fluked this,
But I think the voice and the personality comes through on radio, and thinking quickly on the spot, so you can hear their personality. Like we had that conversation about someone I know who made a big mistake live on air.
Yeah,
completely lost a job, and I feel so bad for her. She did the monumental mistake.
Yeah,
but I'm sure 90% of the population would do something like that.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, and sometimes you say things that we don't. That was a commercial radio situation, and there's pressures to kind of be a little bit out there, be a bit brazen,
always on,
and it's a different kind of thing. I mean, the challenge for us is remaining impartial and being balanced, because is remaining impartial and keeping that sense of balance, because being funded by the government, the last thing you want to be is accused of bias, and it's the first thing that people will say. ABC, the bloody full of pinko, they're all communists down there.
That's a big one at the moment too.
It does your head in, because you really there's a lot of effort that goes into remaining consistently in the middle and being receptive to all ideas. Right. And if you do that, you find it self-census, particularly with talkback. You get people coming in going, bloody Muslims, or bloody this, or bloody that. They're taken over the country, or Asian immigration years ago. The same sort of stories would have been floating around. And for this is what I say about giving everyone the benefit of the doubt, and people are inherently good. There's a lack of kind of education that informs those kinds of perceptions, but that's really balanced out by people who are more thoughtful. So if you put a voice like that to air, sure enough, the next call is going to be someone who counters that, and eventually it all sort of narrows down to this spot in the middle where people are perfectly comfortable to coexist in terms of their opinions. And if you can kind of trust people to do that, to get you to that spot, it works really, really well, because it's gentle. It's not, you're wrong, mate. You can't say that. Yeah. It's like, you can say it, but you've equally got to listen to people who may disagree with you. So you're constantly trying to find a way to bring that conversation together and fuse it and merge it. And perhaps it is a legal training that is helpful for me in doing that, in considering that there are alternatives and there's reasons for alternatives.
Especially in different locations in the country.
Yeah.
And did you ever have a time where you listened to a lot of radio?
Oh, I've always listened to the ABC.
Really?
Always, yeah.
Triple J or what? Or the ABC?
Triple J as a younger fellow.
Yeah.
Drew.
Okay. Who was the same? So, but what was the era? Do you remember the announcers?
There was a lot of the Hour of Power with Francis Leach.
Yeah.
Late of an evening, quite like that.
Mikey Robbins,
Helen
Razor.
Yeah. And still like reading a lot of Helen Razor's stuff. Actually, I like the way she thinks. Yeah,
yeah, I did. She's completely off the map for me personally. When she got that scare,
that scare, she had that. Well, it was a stalking type thing, and it really threw her very. It was brutal. The whole experience.
My ex was in the same. There was that guy was a serial pest.
Yeah,
like sending lots of ladies on radio and TV. I saw it myself. Like cut out. She got her name on a piece of paper and could cut out words and highlight, cut your thing. It was like really frightening stuff.
It's disgusting.
But I love the coppers, but I remember going, "Oh my God, this is the worst." She goes, "Oh well, it's fine. This guy just does it to us all the time. It's constant." I'm like, wow. And
it's
anyway, just a real
horror.
nutter.
Yeah, total nutter. And anyway, yeah, but she writes now and writes a lot and writes well too. She's a view. She's divisive. People will read her stuff and go, nah.
Where does she put it out?
I think she works as a freelance writer in various publications. But yeah, so it was her, Mikey Robbins and Helen Razor in the mornings, wasn't it?
Then I remember Adam
Spencer.
Adam Spencer.
I went to school with him. I went to school with him,
Did you?
believe it or not.
What school was that then?
See, he's an interesting one because
he loves his footy.
He loves his Swans, doesn't he? But he was about 4 or 5 years older than me. I played cricket with his brother at school, Frank.
Wow.
Frank Spencer. Remember Frank?
Frank Spencer.
Frank Spencer.
Where's my beret?
Where's my beret? Yeah, that sort of thing. That was his nickname. I can't even. Such was the connection with the nickname. I couldn't tell you what his full name was. That's Frank, brother of Adam. Yep. But Adam was basically a full-time student who kind of never left university. He was there for years and years and years, just doing an honours year there and doing a part-time in science and maths was his thing. So in a sense, he and I are kind of similar in a way in that we've come to this career from...
Yeah, because he wrote maths genius,
stuff.
right?
Yeah, total freak.
So he had
lovely bloke, an interesting guy, and then he went into he was on Triple J, and then took the breakfast slot in Sydney, I think.
I don't know actually, but I remember that.
He was on ABC for a while, but Adam Spencer, he was around. But Triple J, and then I've always been in Sydney it was 702. And then in Melbourne, 774, John Fain, again, former lawyer, who does the morning show down. I just love the immediacy of it and the conversations that develop. And the beauty of what I do now is that I can do all that and play music as well. So it's kind of the best of both worlds for me.
And you can, no doubt some of these, shock jocks is the wrong word in talkback, but I guess you can guide almost the level of negativity that you take on.
Yeah.
Where some DJ, or what do you call them, DJs?
DJs.
Yeah.
Presenters.
Some presenters go, give me more of that.
Yeah. I'm going to thrive.
Which is how I stopped listening to radio. When I say you got me back to listening to your show because I got right into driving to Brisbane every day.
Yeah.
Listening to this talkback radio station, and it was skewed at the time, they're doing this, and like,
to a market.
The government are doing nothing, and you sort of get lost in that, and then you find yourself standing at the chicken shop, talking to a stranger. The bloody Isn't it funny?
Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of weird.
You can shape your audience. I think it's a cool thing.
Yeah, in a sense. I mean,
the news will be news, but
it's just nice to be a sounding board. It's like you can be a spot where people can feel comfortable to have their say. I mean, there's a lot of instances, and I've been a victim of this when I was writing, and I told you about that